Are you tired of mowing your lawn? Well, in a few years, you may never have to again. Special guest technology expert John Miley from the Kiplinger Letter joins me to discuss what the future holds for drone and robot technology, what companies stand to benefit, and what the impact may be on consumers and the economy. Welcome to Investor in the Family Radio, a podcast about learning to invest. My name is Brian Bain, and I'm your host. At Investor in the Family Radio, we believe that every dollar and minute we spend is an investment in something, and together, we want to make the best investments we can, so thank you so much for joining us. Remember, our goal is to help you learn to invest financially and in all of life. You can always find more at investorinthefamily.com and subscribe to the podcast at iTunes, Stitcher, and the Google Play Store. As always, if you'd like detailed show notes from today's episode, simply text the word family notes, that's one word family notes, to the number 44222, or visit investorinthefamily.com and sign up, and we'll be sure to get you taken care of. Do you like shopping for insurance? Of course you don't. It can be a terrible experience, especially when it comes to life insurance. But if you have loved ones that you want to take care of financially after you're gone, then you may want to consider term life insurance, and Policy Genius is the easiest way to get insurance, period. At Policy Genius, you can figure out what you need, compare the top policies, get covered, and save. If you want to save on term life insurance, go to investorinthefamily.com/policygenius. That's investorinthefamily.com/policygenius for access created specifically for Investor in the Family listeners. I do get a small commission if you use my link, which costs you nothing. It's a win-win. Visit investorinthefamily.com/policygenius for more info and have the most enjoyable insurance shopping experience you've ever had. And hope you enjoyed today's show with John Miley. Well, hey, John, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Oh man, absolutely. We had some great discussions about 5G. We've had some great discussions about augmented reality and virtual reality. And now I'm excited to have some discussions about drones and robots. So we hear drones and, you think about Amazon delivery and all the different regulatory conflictions that can come in with this. But another one of those big trend industries, what can you tell us about where this industry is right now and what could be on the way?
Sure. One of the things that's interesting about drones is that for a long time, you had people complaining about the Federal Aviation Administration taking a long time to get these done, sort of technology racing ahead of where the regulators were. That's not uncommon when I cover emerging tech, like here in DC. But 2012, I think, is when the law was signed. I might be getting some of these dates wrong, but 2012, June 12th, so August 2016 is when their new small drone rules took effect. So that was recently.
Yeah, just a couple months ago. Yeah.
Yep. In other words, you had to get a certificate if you were trying to run a drone commercial service. So beyond the consumer hobbyists, you had to go out and get a certification. So people were getting certifications like crazy.
Sure.
But now the rules are in effect. You still have to go out and get a pilot's license. And there's still other rules that people aren't sort of happy with. You still need
like a legit normal pilot's license or like a special drone pilot's license?
It's a good question. It's a special drones pilot license. So you don't have to be a manned pilot, which I believe you had to be before. Except some people are concerned that the test is still too hard. And it's still like taking a page from the manned aviation book, and it doesn't need to be that difficult. Mm-hmm. But I think some of the things you're seeing pretty quickly by the end of the year, they're looking into drones flying over people, which you can't do now, and they're looking into figuring out how to do that by the end of the year. And that's when you talk about Amazon delivery, you're going to have to go over people. You're going to have to go over buildings. Another thing would be, you don't have to have line of sight. They're still working on, and that's a huge limitations when people in the industry I talk to. So every drone, you have to have line of sight. You have to see it, which obviously it limits you a lot. And right. The other one would be flying at night, and the other one would be sort of how line of sight has to do with how far away you can fly to. So right now, I would say this is very early days in general with the drone industry. Sales are growing rapidly for consumer drones. A lot more services are coming online, whether it's real estate photography, oil and gas inspection, agriculture inspection, dropping pesticides, thing like that. But the industry, the trade groups, uses a forecast of, by 2025, a $10 billion a year industry. So that year, $10 billion, that's sort of an all-encompassing amount. And then adding 100,000 new jobs, I think it's in that year. So it's interesting because you don't see too many tech stuff like this that sort of goes from where we're sort of at early days, 0, and then seeing where it's going to go. But a lot of people expect this to be huge, the commercial drone industry, for sellers of drones, for new services, for different businesses using them. For instance, for delivery, you mentioned Amazon. I think I've written that probably by 2020, if not, is when you'll see some of the delivery starting.
2020. Wow. Okay. So this is almost 2017. Okay. That's pretty soon. Yeah. That's and I'm sure this is not, I know it's not an uncommon thing, but just thinking about just the idea of a little drone coming onto my front door and dropping a package just seems so weird to me. So it'd be crazy if how they actually end up doing it.
It's hard to imagine. I get readers ask me, can I shoot down the drone? Do I own the airspace above my lot? The question is, I'm not a lawyer. I still think it's basically no, I don't think so. I think there's a lot of different rules where you can't destroy other property, et cetera. And then also the airspace, FAA regulates that. But in some ways there's a little murkiness yet to be decided. But there's a lot of states and localities that are rolling out privacy rules about drones. And that the U.S., your comment is like, will that in some areas hurt some of these applications they want to do, such as delivery? Because a lot of people I talk to do not like that idea. I think to me, it sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. I agree. But I mean, unlike we talked about augmented and virtual reality, lots of cool stuff there. But the drones, and you've already said this, it's that privacy factor. It's like a drone flying over my backyard, and every drone's going to have a camera on it, and, and I guess if I buy something from Amazon, and I don't know if they'll check, if you want it today, then click here, which means we can send a drone to your house. So technically you are inviting the drone to your property.
Yes.
But I mean, that drone isn't going to fly over streets because that kind of defeats the point. They're going to go straight from point A to point B as much as possible, which would mean flying over other properties. But again, that's FAA, and airplanes fly over our property. So I guess as long as the drone's flying high enough and then it drops down over my address, maybe that's one workaround perhaps.
Yeah. And I guess the folks in the drone industry would say, we have peeping Tom privacy laws. We already have privacy laws that are in place that people can litigate privacy invasions that way. I guess, I mean, you say it, but I actually was a little surprised at how much this privacy, I mean, a lot of states have come up with privacy laws or have bills that they're looking at that have to do with the drone privacy. I was surprised because we have the internet privacy issues and other things. I was surprised it became such a big deal, but it definitely is. But I think delivery could be a big application too.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, and one thing, not to get off topic at all, but when it comes to privacy stuff that still surprises me is Google Maps, because now that they're driving down people's alleys, I mean, I can get on Google Maps and they have cars going down alleys with tall cameras looking down into people's backyards and mapping it on Google Maps. And I'm like, first of all, why do you need that on Google Maps? And second of all, how is that not an issue? And so that's a whole nother conversation, but it's the same conversation on a privacy standpoint, but that's not the focus of this call or this recording. But that's another area that comes into play where Google seems to have kind of snuck through, it seems like.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely one of the issues. And then when you have drones sort of, I mean, if you look at the scale of this is pretty amazing. So Stanford researchers who are working on automated systems to predict and prevent drone crashes, sort of like computerized air traffic controllers for drones in urban environments, which of course you'll need. They said if you took Amazon's 40 million Prime members alone, it would result in 130,000 drone deliveries per day. I believe that's across the country. So in any event, the scale of what you could do for deliveries tied into what you mentioned, the concern of privacy, or that people just don't want drones around, is definitely a major issue.
That is amazing. That drone. I mean, and that's a real. I mean, you look at basing that off Amazon Prime members. That's a good basis of that. That's remarkable. 130,000 drone deliveries a day. So that's huge industry, like you mentioned, for people making drones. So deliveries is huge, and of course, I remember I saw in a magazine recently, whether or not just basically Amazon taking on FedEx essentially from delivery, and you wonder how will this impact UPS and FedEx? Are they going to step up the game here? Are they completely behind the eight ball, or what?
It's an interesting question. I would guess that I don't know if I've looked into this too much, but I would say that it's you can't question that Amazon is ahead in this. They're already doing research. They're already testing this. They have a drone that is sort of like a copter drone with helicopter blades that can then turn into just a flying thing to fly fast. And a lot of the times it's talking about like the last mile delivery. So I forget what car company it was, but there was a car company it drives the packages close to where it is, and then the drones can take off the top of it and deliver it to the homes sense. All around them.
Well, that's what UPS will do around Christmas time in my neighborhood. They'll have like a bigger truck, and they'll pull it into like a church parking lot not far from where my house is, and then they'll literally have it do like in a golf cart or like a smaller vehicle running back and forth really quickly to all the different houses, delivering packages, and they'll go refuel, equip themselves with more packages. And I could see that happen. They're already doing that idea, but just without drones.
Yeah. And when you see like the heated competition, what Amazon, you get a Prime membership, you can, whether it's same day delivery or whatever they experiment with. I mean, what if you could get something 30 minutes or less? What if you broke something for your party and you wanted some dishware or something really quickly? Another interesting fact of Amazon, I think this is from the past year, 86% of Amazon deliveries are under 5 pounds. So they're light. I mean, that's really conducive to doing it by drone. I mean, they wouldn't be looking at it if it didn't work.
So under 8 pounds?
Under 5 pounds.
Okay.
And then consider will people pay extra to get fast deliveries? And I think they will in a lot of cases.
No
I think
doubt they will.
There's certainly a market for, I mean, you don't have it now, so you're not sure, but especially if you can drive, obviously you're driving the price down if you're delivering it by drone. But I think this would heat the competition up against like a FedEx, and I'm sure they would invest in technology to compete in that area.
Well, I mean, the existence of Amazon Prime in itself is proof that people will pay for faster, because that's the primary benefit of Prime is faster delivery. I mean, any of the online content I feel like is not the reason people are signing up for Amazon Prime. So deliveries is obviously huge, and that's, I think, we've discussed that, and there's not a lot of argument there, assuming regulatory approval. And then beyond that, as far as high capabilities when it comes to photography and videography and stuff, I mean, that's an obvious application. But, when it comes to agriculture and other industries, like what do you see beyond deliveries with drones?
Some of the things, agriculture, tracking cattle, pesticides. I mentioned inspecting pipelines for hotspots and leaks. Consider, I mean, you're paying someone to go along these pipelines that might be miles and miles long, inspecting bridges too. I think I was biking to work the other day and I saw someone on a ladder taking pictures of a bridge, and it's like, get a drone to do that. Save a lot of money. Utilities, you can inspect transmission towers and lines, solar farms. I think Verizon announced the other day, and you're going to see this in other telecommunications companies, bringing reliable cell service to disaster areas. So you can beam wireless service with drones, inspection drones for safety, inspecting areas. Some of the drones, there's companies that sell drones that are actually tethered with like a microfilament, a little tiny wire, so they can fly forever because they have a power source. so that they could inspect different areas.
What would they be? Would they be tethered to the ground or something else up in another aircraft? Okay, you broke up a minute there. Could you say that again? The connection broke. Can you say that part again if you don't mind? The connection broke off.
Yeah, tethered to the ground.
Okay.
So connected to a power source, basically like a fishing line type thing.
Right.
That doesn't get tangled or tries not to get tangled. Police drones for inspecting crime and monitoring traffic. You've already seen police departments I mentioned those certificates you had to get. A lot of police departments have gotten certificates to use drones.
Interesting.
I'm in the media, CNN and other media companies using drones, even sports, Hollywood. I mean, I think you look at the show House, beginning of the show, and a lot of I wouldn't call it B-roll, is them. I think they're in Connecticut, and it's over the river. I mean, they must have paid a huge amount of money for a helicopter to take that footage.
Right.
Get a drone. The shots you can look online when you look at like the Chinese company DJI and other companies, just how amazing some of this footage is.
Sure.
Would be huge. And then insurance companies, I think I even had State Farm as one of the companies to get certificates so they can inspect areas after storms or something, to just use a drone rather than a person and get. One of the companies I talked to was Prenav, which is a drone startup that uses 3D mapping. So it can actually sort of automate, so it doesn't need anyone to fly the drone itself, and it can do all the inspections. So it can inspect a wind turbine or a rooftop or a building facade inspection. And these are things that are today done by humans that are super expensive and also really dangerous. So you have drones being able to do stuff that's quite dangerous, and that's pretty beneficial to a lot of companies.
Right. Well, and we spent a lot of time talking about drones, which obviously seems like a more near term. It's been in the news a lot. What about robotics? And obviously that's a big topic that we could discuss for a long time, but what's happening in the robotics sector that would be good for us as investors to be aware of, and maybe trends that we can be looking to?
Yep. Well, last year, 2015 too, robots, sort of industrial robot orders in North America reach all-time high. China is buying a lot of robots. You hear Foxconn, the huge electronics manufacturer, investing more in automation and industrial robots. By far the biggest sector to use it is cars. But I think the two big trends are more industries investing in robots. Robots are getting much cheaper. So that bodes well for medium-sized companies, small companies, and of course, even large companies. And then you're also seeing collaborative robots that can work next to humans. Mm-hmm. Now, this is a big difference. That robots have usually been caged off to prevent injuries and stuff like that. But now you have robots that can be next to a person, so you can have a person work on something and then you can move it over to the robot. And that's a bigger thing. The other thing too would be mobile robots in factories or warehouses. So in a warehouse, a mobile robot could follow along with someone else and sort of take stuff as the person takes things off the shelf.
Right. And so the car manufacturing industry, so all the major car manufacturers like Ford, GM, and then the US as well as international, like Europe, Japan, all those manufacturers would be impacted by this. What other types of industries and companies could be seeing impact? Is it primarily going to be manufacturing type?
Manufacturing, plastics, semiconductors, electronics. I think you'll see a lot of movement to small electronics. I mean, a lot of the assembly of an iPhone, for instance, is done by humans, and you've seen those documentaries on Foxconn and in Asia and where they assemble it. You can't, from what I understand, it's hard to get a robot to do such precise assembly. When you can do it, they're going to invest in it. Food and beverage, a lot of handling of goods, and if you watch some Food Network show where you see foods coming off the conveyor belt, those count as industrial robots, and things like that. And then the next phase too would be the smaller, medium size factory or mid-sized businesses that might benefit from industrial robots automation, whether it's a farm or something else.
Right. Yeah, you mentioned Fetch Robotics in California was a company looking to do things like that.
Yeah, Fetch Robotics was one of those companies that said, I want to take what Amazon has with their warehouse robots. Some of the videos of Amazon robots are pretty amazing. You have these big robots moving around a huge amount of items. But the Fetch Robotics in California, they have a robot that sort of helps use for packing boxes or grabbing stuff off shelves in warehouses that start at 50,000 square feet. So this is smaller than Amazon's. And of course, when Amazon bought Kiva Systems, they took it off the market. So like if you're a manufacturer and you want to get that type of automation, it got tougher to do.
Wow. It helps when you're the big guy, right?
Yes. For sure.
So yeah, it does sound like basically with robotics, you've got just like looking at a next level up from what robots are currently doing, because there's a lot of automation already using robotics. And this is just kind of like a next generation of more precise, smarter, smaller jobs. And again, like more affordable for smaller companies. So more accessibility as well.
Yeah. That's some of the main trends. And then the other things would just be like advanced vision sensors, whether it's an iRobot like vacuum cleaner or a lawnmower that can go around and mow your lawn for you.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, some of the, again, stemming from some of the smartphone technology, but things like that are definitely beneficial for all types of robots.
Awesome. Well, hey, John, thanks so much for coming back on the show again today. And this discussion on drones and robotics has been, it's been great. We appreciate you sharing all of your expertise with us.
Great. Thanks a lot.
Well, hope you enjoyed the interview with John Miley. Remember, you can get full show notes with links and other details at investorinthefamily.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the show at the iTunes, Stitcher, or the Google Play Store. And if you want to receive my detailed summary sheet highlights from today's show, simply text the word Family Notes, one word, Family Notes, to the number 44222, or visit investorinthefamily.com and sign up, and we'll be sure to get you taken care of. This is Brian, and thanks for joining the family. The information and opinions contained on this podcast are for educational purposes only. The information does not consider the economic status or risk profile of any specific person. The information and opinions expressed should not be construed as investment trading advice and does not constitute an offer or an invitation to make an offer to buy and sell securities.